Today we got some breaking news that, to be honest, shocked me, and that's the fact that the Buffalo Bills have decided to extend Stefon Diggs for an additional 4 years, which boded a pretty interesting question as to what we could expect for some of the future star wide receivers in this league. Now, before we get to the content, we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. We also have a Discord community in the description down below if you want to just drop by and chat with me. It's open to everyone. And now that we get all that out of the way, break! I am so happy that events are finally back, and in order to really treat myself, I decided to purchase a ticket to Excision, who's performing in Los Angeles in June. Now, I was trying to figure out what's the best platform to find a cheap ticket to Excision, and the answer to that is without a doubt SeatGeek, which is today's video sponsor. If you've never heard of SeatGeek, they are a ticketing app that makes purchasing tickets so simple. I have the app on my phone, and I could easily just pull it up at any point and just buy tickets to Excision right here. And the best part of this is I have a code to hook you guys up with even cheaper tickets. When you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get $20 off of your purchase on SeatGeek. That's $20 off of your purchase when you use promo code Mikerophone, and thank you SeatGeek for today's sponsorship. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I wanted to open this video by saying I am so happy for any NFL player that gets the bag. And when I discuss these matters, it's strictly from an analytical standpoint, and I'm very happy for anyone's success. With that being said, this morning when I woke up, I got some news that Stefon Diggs is signing a gigantic deal with the Buffalo Bills. To give you an idea, the Buffalo Bills are signing Stefon Diggs to a $96 million contract extension through 2027, which is absolute insanity. This is obviously as a result of the more recent contracts that were given up to NFL superstars, and the full details of this deal is $70 million guaranteed over the next 4 years. First of all, you need to understand, this man was a late round draft pick. He deserves everything that's coming to him. He's worked his absolute ass off, and I am so happy that he was able to get himself $70 million guaranteed. What I'm curious about is how this affects the rest of the wide receiver market. I mean, currently, according to Spotrac, the highest paid average wide receivers in the NFL are Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Stefon Diggs, and DJ Moore. So Stefon Diggs' brand new contract just puts him right behind DeAndre Hopkins for 4th highest paid wide receiver in the entire NFL. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because I don't want to jump into a debate of whether or not Stefon Diggs is good enough to deserve that type of money, because if we're being honest, ever since Stefon Diggs arrived in Buffalo, Josh Allen has been a completely different quarterback. Whether there's 100% of a correlation to Stefon Diggs being acquired to Josh Allen's development is a different conversation for a different day, but you have to admit, whenever you have an opportunity to build your young QB's confidence with a weapon that he is very comfortable with, you need to go for it. Now, what's interesting here is currently Stefon Diggs might be getting paid on average the 4th highest in the NFL, but he is getting paid the 2nd most guaranteed money amongst wide receivers. The only person that's beating him is Tyreek Hill with a $72.2 million guarantee. Then there's Stefon Diggs with $70 million guaranteed. Then Davante Adams with $65.6 million guaranteed. Michael Thomas with $60.5 guaranteed, and DeAndre Hopkins with $60 million guaranteed. Now, where things get very interesting, in my opinion, is what kind of contracts are we about to see? I mean, if you just look at the upcoming wide receiver class, and this is a huge reason why AJ Brown and DK Metcalf find themselves in trade rumors, you currently have Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, and Deontay Johnson that are due for contract extensions. So things are about to get absolutely insane for wide receivers. Like, what are you expecting Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, and Deontay Johnson to get paid? Because no disrespect to Stefon Diggs, I feel like the entire offense of the San Francisco Francisco 49ers runs through Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown and DK Metcalf have a significantly higher ceiling than Stephon Diggs because they're still relatively young, and Cooper Kupp was the most prolific wide receiver of this past year. So I'm expecting all of those wide receivers to get bigger contracts than Stephon Diggs, which bodes an age-old question: what do you do in an NFL when your star wide receiver is due for a contract extension? Historically, we've seen instances of teams really struggling with what to do. I mean, a few years ago, I believe Bill O'Brien had the right idea when he thought that he couldn't pay DeAndre Hopkins anymore, so he decided to trade him to the Arizona Cardinals. The problem is he did not get anything close to the value of DeAndre Hopkins in return. Had he received a first-round pick and a second-round pick in return for DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver going into his 7th year in the NFL, then he may have still had a job at this point, but instead he made a trade that set back the Houston Texans for years to come. A team that was just freshly rebuilt is now in the middle of a brand new rebuild as a result of it. And this question has been coming up more and more, especially in the ludicrous offseason that we've been in, when you saw two players who were the #1 wide receiver for future Hall of Fame quarterbacks decide to take bigger money and to switch teams. Now, I know in Davante Adams' case, apparently the Green Bay Packers offered the same exact amount of money to him to remain with the Green Bay Packers, but he chose the Las Vegas Raiders instead. The Raiders then sent a first-round pick and a second-round pick in return for a wide receiver that is about to turn 30, which ultimately I know really stings, but in hindsight, what else are you supposed to do in this instance? Pay Davante Adams an exorbitant amount of money and not use that money to invest in your own team? When you also couple that with the fact that Aaron Rodgers historically has this reputation of taking players who were relatively obscure before meeting him and making them incredibly relevant and talented wide receivers, then I wouldn't necessarily be so worried about what the Packers do with a first-round pick and a second-round pick and a wide receiver deep draft. So in that instance, it made a lot of sense for both sides to move on. Davante Adams gets a tremendous sum of money and gets to spend his final years in Las Vegas with Derek Carr, whereas Aaron Rodgers will probably have a brand new weapon to develop, which I'm pretty confident he will be able to. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are placed in the same exact situation. Tyreek Hill saw the money Davante Adams got and said to himself, I could take this lesser money and stay in Kansas City and continue with Patrick Mahomes, or I could get paid $72 million guaranteed and go to Miami with nicer weather and start something new with Mike McDaniel, Tua, and a team that is calling itself the Legion of Zoom. And currently there isn't necessarily a right or wrong way to handle this situation, because the only other team that was in this exact same situation a few years ago was ironically the Minnesota Vikings with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs wanted more money. He also wanted a change of scenery. The Minnesota Vikings traded Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills, and in return, they got the draft pick that ironically turned into Justin Jefferson. This was a huge win for both sides. Both teams ended up significantly better as a result of these moves. You could make the argument that the Bills should have just kept their pick and drafted Justin Jefferson, but at that point, this was a pivotal year for Josh Allen's development, and you wanted a surefire stud of a wide receiver to really push him to the next level, and that's what the Buffalo Bills got. The Minnesota Vikings ended up getting a wide receiver that wanted to be in Minnesota that they don't need to pay nearly as much for another couple of years, and once they do need to pay him, then that's going to be a different conversation. So ultimately, did the Buffalo Bills make the right decision in extending Stephon Diggs? Without a doubt. This is them saying that we are all in on Josh Allen. They signed Von Miller in free agency to really boost that defense that is already a pretty damn good defense, and now they're signing Josh Allen's #1 target, Stephon Diggs, to a contract extension. In my opinion, there's no better use of that money. There's no other holes on the Buffalo Bills' roster, maybe except for running back, but running back is something that you could address in the NFL draft, even though historically you've been trying a lot recently to address that position in the NFL draft. I think at this point, you just got to keep throwing darts at the dartboard, and hopefully you hit on a running back prospect in the NFL draft. If they had more holes on their roster, then I would have said it was a bad move, but they don't have any holes on their roster anymore. Everything has been completely addressed. The only way that this is a failure is if the Buffalo Bills fail to make it to the Super Bowl this year. Their #1 competition in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs, got a little bit weaker after losing Tyreek Hill. This is the Buffalo Bills' opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl. Let me know in the comment section down below. Did Stephon Diggs get paid way too much? Is there a hole that the Buffalo Bills should have addressed instead? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.